Hi friends, and welcome back to Get Your Play Online. My name is Sarah, and I'm going to be reading a bedtime story for you tonight. So go get your pajamas on, go grab a stuffed animal and get nice and cozy. And if you have this book on your bookshelf, go ahead and grab it. Tonight we are reading One Morning in Maine by Robert McCloskey. It's a bit of an older book. I read it when I was a kid, and it was one of my favorite books, so I'm excited to read it to you tonight. So go get nice and comfy, nice and cozy, and we'll start our book in just a minute. I have a question for you. Have you ever lost a tooth? You ever lost a tooth? Has one of your teeth fallen out before? Has it gotten wiggly and loose and then it came out? Well, in our book today, Sal has a loose tooth. And we're going to see if her tooth comes out. We're going to see if it falls out. So, let's read our book today, One Morning in Maine. We'll see what happens with her loose tooth. One Morning in Maine. Do you know where Maine is? Maine is a state in the United States. It is up north, almost near Canada. All right, let's get reading. One morning in Maine, Sal woke up. She peeked over the top of the covers. The bright sunlight made her blink, so she pulled the covers up and was just about to go back to sleep when she remembered. Today's the day I'm going to Buck Harbor with my father. Sal pushed back the covers, hopped out of bed, put on her robe and slippers, and hurried out into the hall. She's going on a special trip with her dad today. How exciting! There was little Jane just coming out of her room. Sister Jane had wiggled out of her nightie, so Sal helped her put on her robe and slippers. You don't want to catch a cold and have to stay in bed, Jane, because this morning we're going to Buck's Harbor, Sal reminded her sister. Together they went out into the bathroom to get ready for breakfast. Sal squeezed out toothpaste onto Sister Jane's brush and said, "Be careful, Jane, and don't get it in your hair." Then she squeezed some toothpaste onto her own brush. When she started brushing her teeth, something felt very strange. One of her teeth felt loose. She wiggled it with her tongue, and then she wiggled it with her finger. Oh dear, thought Sal, this cannot be true. Standing on the stool, see the picture? Standing on the stool, she looked in the mirror and wiggled her tooth again. Sure enough, it was loose. You could even see it wiggle. She has a loose tooth. Mom, she cried. One of my teeth is loose. It will hurt and I'll have to stay in bed. I won't be able to eat my breakfast and go with Daddy to Buck's Harbor. She came running down the stairs and into the kitchen. Why, Sal, said her mother, that's nothing to worry about. That means today you've become a big girl. Everybody's baby teeth get loose and come out when they grow up. A nice, new, bigger and better tooth will grow in when this one comes out. Did your baby teeth get loose and come out when you grew to be a big girl? Sal asked her mother. Yes, she answered, and then these nice large ones grew in. When Penny grows to be a big dog, do you see Penny on there? There's Penny. When Penny grows to be a big dog, his puppy teeth dropped out too. And will Jane's get loose too? That's her little sister, asked Sal. Yes, said her mother, but not for a long time, not until she stops being a baby and grows up to be a big girl like you. Jane is so young that she hasn't even grown all her baby teeth yet. Now, let's all go upstairs and brush our hair and get dressed for breakfast. It feels so different to be a big girl and have a loose tooth, said Sal, especially when you're chewing. If you've had a loose tooth, doesn't it feel strange when you're chewing because it moves around in your mouth when you're chewing, and then you think, when's it gonna come out? It's so fun having a loose tooth. It might feel a little weird in your mouth, but that's okay. It's a normal part of getting older. It feels so different, especially when you're chewing. Perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow it'll come out, answered her mother. But when your tooth comes out, you put it under your pillow and you make a wish. And your wish is supposed to come true. I don't know what I'm going to wish for, said Sal. A nice cold choco. But you mustn't tell anybody your wish, or it won't come true, cautioned her mother. It's supposed to be a secret wish. Now finish your milk, Sal, and then you can go out on the beach and help your father dig clams for lunch. I'm a big girl and I can help him dig a lot of clams. Fast, said Sal, so we can hurry up and go to Buck's Harbor. After breakfast, when Sal went out to help her father, she saw a fish hawk flying overhead carrying a fish. I have a loose tooth, Sal called up to the fish hawk. The fish hawk flew straight to her nest on top of a tree without answering. Can you see her nest on there? Where is it? Do you see it up at the top of the tree? It's up there. Fish hawk is a bird. It's flying to the nest. I have a loose tooth, Sal called to the fish hawk. The fish hawk flew straight to the top of her nest on the top of the tree without answering. She was too busy feeding breakfast to her baby fish hawk. Sal wondered for a moment if the baby fish hawk had any teeth to chew his breakfast. Then she started on down toward the beach where her father was digging clams. When she came near the water, she saw a loon. I have a loose tooth, Sal called to the loon, and today I have started to be a big girl. The loon didn't say anything, but kept swimming in circles. Then he ducked his beak into the water and snapped out a herring. Then he swallowed it whole without a single chew. Perhaps loons don't have any teeth, thought Sal, and she was just turning to go on her way when something's going to poke out of the water. What do you think it could be? A seal poked his head up out of the water. I have a loose tooth, Sal said to the seal, and the seal, being just as curious as most seals, swam nearer to have a good look. See, said Sal, and she walked closer, right down on the slippery seaweeds at the water's edge. The seal swam nearer, and Sal was stooping nearer when... What do you think is going to happen? Seaweed is really slippery. Oops! She slipped on the seaweed and fell. Kasploosh! The seal disappeared beneath the water, and the loon laughed. Loo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Sal wasn't hurt a bit, so she laughed too, and then she got up carefully and started down the shore to help her father dig clams. She paused to watch some seagulls having breakfast. They were dropping mussels down on a rock to crack mussel shells just like nuts. Then they flew down to eat the insides. Do seagulls have teeth? Wondered Sal as she wiggled her own loose one with her tongue. If you've ever had a loose tooth, have you wiggled it around with your tongue? That's something else cool that you can do with your loose tooth. You can use your tongue to move it around in your mouth. She thought of her secret wish and smiled, then hurried down to the beach where she could see her father. Daddy, I have a loose tooth, she shouted, and when it drops out, I'm going to put it under my pillow and wish a wish. You can even see it wiggle. Her father stopped digging clams while Sal wiggled her tooth for him. You're growing into a big girl when you get a loose tooth, he said. What are you going to wish for when it drops out? I can't tell you that, said Sal solemnly, because it's supposed to be a secret wish. Oh, yes, so it is, her father agreed. May I help you dig clams? Sal asked. I'm almost finished, he replied, but you can help me if you like. First, you must take off your shoes and socks and roll up your pants so that they won't get all wet and muddy. Sal took off her shoes and socks, then put them on a dry rock. She rolled up her pants and waded into the muddy gravel to help her father. He dug in the mud with his clam rake, and then they looked carefully and felt around in the muddy hole for clams. "I found a tiny baby one," said Sal. "You certainly did," said her father, "but it's too small. We just keep the large ones like this. Let's put the baby clam back in the mud so he can grow to be a big clam someday." "He is a baby clam, and I guess he is too small," she agreed. "I guess he isn't even big enough to have all his baby teeth," said Sal, placing the tiny clam tenderly back in the mud. "Clams don't have teeth," grunted her father, digging another rake full of mud. "Not even big clams have teeth?" asked Sal. "Not even big clams," her father assured her. "Do baby fishhawks and big fishhawks have teeth?" asked Sal. "No," said her father. "Do loons have teeth?" she asked. "And gulls?" "No." "Do seals have teeth?" "Yes, they have 'em," he answered. "And do their teeth get loose like this?" asked Sal, opening her mouth to show her loose tooth. "Ow!" she said with a great surprise. "What do you think happened?" What do you think happened? She felt with her tongue and she felt with her muddy fingers. "Why, it's gone!" she said sadly, feeling once more just to make sure. The loose tooth was really and truly gone. It came out of her mouth. It must have fallen out. Huh. The salty mud from her fingers tasted bitter, and she made a bitter tasting face that was almost a face like crying. "Did you swallow it, Sal?" asked her father with a concerned smile. "No," she shook her head sadly. "I was too busy asking to do any swallowing. It just dropped itself out. It's gone, and I can't put it under my pillow to make any wish come true." "That's too bad," her father sympathized. "But you are growing into a big girl, and big girls don't cry about a little thing like that. They wait for another tooth to come loose and make a wish on that one." "Maybe we can find my tooth where it dropped," said Sal, hopefully feeling around in the muddy gravel where the clams live. Sal's father helped her look, but a muddy tooth looks so much like a muddy pebble, and a muddy pebble looks so much like a muddy tooth, that they hunted and hunted without finding it. "We'll have to stop looking and take our clams back to the house, Sal," her father said at last, "or we won't have time for the trip to the village." He washed off the clams in the clean salt water of the bay, and Sal reluctantly stopped looking and waded in to wash the mud from her feet and hands. How do you think Sal feels? Because she lost her tooth. Her tooth came out of her mouth. She didn't even try to pull it out. It just fell out of her mouth. Sometimes teeth come out when you're not even trying to pull them out. Sometimes loose teeth just come out on their own. Well, how do you think she feels? And she wanted to save it and put it under her pillow for her special wish, but now it's lost in the mud and she doesn't know where it is. How do you think she feels? I think she feels sad and disappointed. I think those are some words for how she's feeling. Sad and disappointed. Sometimes that happens in our lives, right? Sometimes things happen to us that aren't the way we wanted them to, right? And sometimes we feel sad and disappointed. Well, let's see what happens. Let's keep on reading. "I guess some clam will find my tooth and get what I wished for," said Sal. "If we come back here tomorrow and find a clam eating a chocolate ice cream cone, Why, we'll have to take it away from him and make him give my tooth back too, she said. Isn't that funny? I guess she wished for a chocolate ice cream cone, so she thinks that a clam in the mud might get what she wished for if he finds her tooth. That's funny. While Sal put on her socks and shoes, her father packed seaweed around the clams to keep them moist and fresh. Now, let's hurry back to the house, he said, and in a few minutes we'll be on our way to Buck's Harbor in the morning to get milk and groceries. Okay, Sal answered, scrambling to her feet. She gave one last look at the muddy place where she'd lost her tooth and then started walking back along to the shore with her father. She walked along slowly, looking at her feet so that her father could not see her face, in case it looked almost like crying. That's something else that happens too when things don't go the way that we want them. Sometimes we cry. That's something that people do. Sometimes we cry when we're sad or disappointed or angry. Sometimes we cry. Oh, see what I found, she exclaimed, stooping to pick up a feather. It's a gull's feather, said her father, pausing for Sal to pick it up. Did a gull lose it? Will another feather grow in where this one dropped out? Asked Sal. Yes, Sal, that's right, answered her father. Maybe seagulls put dropped out feathers under their pillows and wish secret wishes, Sal suggested. Seagulls don't use pillows, but I suppose they can make wishes, her father said. Then I'll make my wish on this feather, Sal decided. Maybe the seagull has already made a wish on that feather and the wish is used up, suggested her father. Oh no, Sal said definitely. He didn't, you see. I guess because he was too busy flying and not looking back. He didn't notice it was loose, and when he brushed his feathers this morning, he didn't expect it would drop out. He doesn't even know it's gone, she convinced herself. She closed her eyes tight and wished her secret wish. When they reached home, Sal's mother and sister Jane were waiting with a box of empty milk bottles to return to the store and a list of things to buy. I'll have a nice clam chowder ready for your lunch when you get back, said Sal's mother, waving goodbye. I'll take good care of Jane, Sal promised. I'm a big girl, and I can watch so she doesn't tumble into the water. Sal and Jane and her father went down to the shore and got aboard their boat. Look, they're going to ride on a boat to go to the store. That's really cool, because remember I said they live in Maine, and in Maine, they're close to the ocean, so they can go places in boats and stuff. They're close to beaches and different stuff like that. Sal and Jane put on life preservers. They're like life jackets. You see them wearing their life jackets in the boat. While their father prepared to start the outboard motor, he pulled and he pulled on the rope to start it, but the outboard motor just coughed and sputtered and wouldn't start. So he had to row the boat all the way across the bay to Buck's Harbor where the store was. I think he's getting a workout. The harbor was full of boats, and Sal's father rowed their boat among them up to a landing and tied it so that it would not drift away while they were at the store. They all climbed ashore, and Sal's father brought along the milk bottles. He brought the outboard motor too, so Mr. Condon, who ran the garage, could fix it. As they came up the path to the village, Mr. Condon was outside his garage putting gas into a car. Do you see them coming up to the village? Here they are. There's Sal. She's the big sister. There's their dad. There's their little sister, Jane. And there's Mr. Condon. He's the owner of the store. I have a tooth out, Sal greeted, and our outboard motor won't run. My, such trouble, Mr. Condon commented, and after he had admired the empty place where Sal's tooth was missing, they took the outboard motor into the garage to find out why it wouldn't run. You see them in the garage? He's going to fix the motor for their boat. Mr. Condon pinched a little with his pliers, tucked a bit with his hammer, and then, after selecting a large wrench, he took out the spark plug. Came right out, just like that tooth of yours, didn't it, Sal? He said, holding it up to the light. He grunted, tossing it on the floor. Needs a new plug. Sal was just about to ask how long it would take for a new spark plug to grow in when Mr. Condon reached up on the shelf and picked out a brand new one and put it on the motor. Sal picked up the old spark plug and handed it to Sister Jane. Jane was so little that she didn't understand about secret wishes. So Sal wished the secret wish for Jane on the spark plug. Mr. Condon pulled the rope, and the motor started right up, just good as new. Sal's father thanked him and picked up the motor and the milk bottles. Jane carried her spark plug. Sal carried her feather, and they said goodbye and walked across the street to where Mr. Condon's brother kept store. So they got all fixed up. They got their new motor for the boat, and they got everything that they need. Good. Well, look who's here, said the Mr. Condon who kept store. So now they're going into the store. I have a tooth out, Sal shouted, returning Mr. Condon's greeting. She showed the empty place where her tooth had been, first to Mr. Condon, then to Mr. Ferd Clifford, Mr. Oscar Staples, who were sitting in the store talking about trapping lobsters and how the fish were biting. Don't put your tongue in the empty place, Mr. Clifford advised, and a nice shiny gold one like mine will grow in. He's just kidding. But I didn't know soon enough, said Sal, looking confused. Ha, said Mr. Condon, chuckling. Don't you worryin' about everything these jokers suggest. I don't suppose, he added, opening up his freezer, that you could eat an ice cream cone with one of your teeth out. You think she can still eat ice cream even with one of her teeth out? I think she could. Oh, yes, I could, said Sal, and it's supposed to be chocolate. And this little lady, he questioned, turning to Jane. Hers is supposed to be vanilla, so the drips won't spot. And you'd better push it together tight so it won't drop off, Sal dictated, because she's still almost a baby, and she doesn't even have all of her first teeth. After Mr. Condon had put the groceries and milk in the box, they thanked him once more and waved goodbye. They walked down the path to the harbor. And down the runway to the float where their boat was tied. They all climbed aboard, carrying the outboard motor, the box of milk and groceries, the feather, the spark plug, and the ice cream cones. While their father fastened the outboard motor to the boat, Sal and Jane finished their ice cream cones. I want some more, Jane demanded. Silly, exclaimed Sal. Our wishes are all used up. Then she remembered that she was growing up, and just like a grown-up, she said. Besides, Jane, 2 ice cream cones would ruin your appetite. When we get home, we're going to have clam chowder for lunch. Because remember, earlier in the book, they were looking in the mud and they found lots of clams, so now they're going to eat them for lunch. Well, that is our book for tonight, One Morning in Maine. I just really like that book. It reminds me of when I was a little kid. I read that book a lot. I just really like the story. So, if you have ever lost a tooth before, you can think of all the fun things that you can do when you lose a tooth. You can wiggle it with your tongue. You can even, if it's one of the ones in the front, you can put a straw through the hole. After you lose it, you can put a straw in the hole and then drink a drink, even with your lips closed. And if you've never lost a tooth before, you can be excited about losing a tooth because it's not a scary thing, it's a normal thing for your body to do, and it's part of growing up. So, thanks for reading with me today, everyone. I'm so glad that we could hang out together during this time. Again, my name is Sarah, and this week here at Get Your Play Online, we have an Under the Sea theme. So you saw some seals in our book today and some clams. Those are some animals that live under the sea. So stay tuned. Tomorrow is Friday, so that is our last day of Under the Sea week. So see what stuff we have. See, ha ha ha, joke. Tune in tomorrow for the last day of Under the Sea week. We have some cool stuff for you. And yeah, thanks for being here, everyone. I hope you sleep super well tonight, and I hope you have an awesome day tomorrow. Bye.